Hey guys, welcome back to the Jays Fit Down podcast. I'm your host, Jaden, and today we're going to be talking about the Falcons and Michael Penix Jr. making his NFL debut, his official NFL start, rather, I should say, in yesterday's game over the New York Giants. And needless to say, Penix did a fantastic job delivering the football down the field, didn't have any touchdowns, had an interception that was questionable. We'll get to that throughout the video here, but just want to talk about him and how really impressive he looked to me as being a rookie quarterback coming in as to start at this point in the season with Atlanta's season virtually on the line here, and they came out and they got a good win. So we'll get into that and a little bit more here on Jays Fit Down. But before we do that, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Check us out here on YouTube, and y'all know the drill by now. If you're new to the channel, like I said, hit that subscribe button. Follow us on the socials, Jays Fit Down Pod on Instagram, X, and TikTok. So you can get all the reels and stuff and everything we do. You stay up to date with that, and also have audio version of the podcast that's on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So if you're working out or driving to work, doing whatever you're doing, just make sure to tap into Jays Fit Down, because we're constantly going to be uploading stuff here and giving you guys more and more material here as we continue to post, and everything. But like I said, we'll get into Michael Penix Jr. and needless to say, I just really loved what I saw in him yesterday. Kirk Cousins was a starter, of course, as we all know, brought into Atlanta on a 4-year, $180 million deal to be their quarterback, and try to get them into a championship window. Unfortunately, though, after starting 6-3, the Falcons, started playing really badly. Kirk Cousins started playing badly. He was turning the football over, throwing 8 interceptions, only did not throw any touchdowns during that 4-game span. And it ultimately led to his benching. And Michael Penix got the start yesterday against the Giants, who came in at 2-12 and just they were a complete mess coming into the game, and they had a bad performance in yesterday's contest as well. So good tune-up game for the Falcons here. They got the win 34-7. Defense played really good. They were getting turnovers, 2 pick sixes, got a fumble recovery, just really got a couple sacks on Drew Lock. I just love the way the defense played, even though it was against the New York Giants, who were just a complete dumpster fire and an abysmal franchise. But overall, it was a great game for the Falcons, and now they currently sit at 8-7, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers lost to the Cowboys last night, which means the Falcons now sit at first place in the NFC South. Now, of course, the Bucs and the Falcons are tied with, they both got that same record, but the Falcons on the tiebreaker because they beat Tampa Bay twice this year already. So very important that Atlanta wins its next 2 games against Washington and Carolina. We'll get to that a little bit later. But like I said, just wanted to break down Michael Penix Jr. for a second. And first, I want to talk about, him is the fact that this kid, he's played a lot of football in college, played in Indiana for a couple of years. Then he transferred to Washington, went over there with Kalen DeBoer, and he became a surgeon, right? At first he was a guy that was, creative, improviser type of quarterback. Then he turned into more of the precise and surgeon, dotting up the defense and picking them apart, right? And he was very successful. Washington went to the national championship game, last year, and they lost. And Michael Penix led the FBS in passing yards, his last year in college. So this guy can definitely ball, and I'm glad the Falcons picked him up. Now, first, I'll be honest, I was wanting them to go defense in the draft when they did select Penix with that 8th overall pick. Was it 8th? Yeah, 8th pick. And wanted them to go with Dallas Turner, an edge rusher or somebody like that. But they did not. And they chose to select Michael Penix Jr. With that 8th overall pick. And it has turned out to be great, as we're, week 16 of the season. We just wrapped up here, or for the Falcons at least. And Kirk Cousins, like I said, it was unfortunate because he was looking really good to coming into the, throughout this first part of the season as the Falcons went 6-3. Like I said, he was playing really well. It's just unfortunately after that, the wheels fell off. Don't know exactly what the cause of that was, but it just wasn't enough. And now the Falcons have their quarterback in Michael Penix Jr. the future. This is their guy. This is their guy, the future. And it couldn't have come at a better time, for him to come in and get some reps. And now, I believe that this will be the player that eventually will lead Atlanta to the promised land, at some point. And once they get the rest of the roster figured out, he's going to be their guy. And yeah. And people can say, yeah, it's the Giants and all this stuff. Yeah, they have a horrible defense and this and that. And yeah, they do. But still, they're an NFL team. Michael Penix Jr. went out there and he performed really, really well. He had some drops by his receivers early on who weren't helping him. Drake London had a drop early. Ray McLeod had a drop early. And that kind of hurt Penix, start off. But he finished really, he played well for the most part throughout the rest of the game. Probably had two other bad throws, maybe, throughout the whole entire game. But for a rookie making his first start in the NFL, it's not bad. He finished 18-27, 202 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 touchdown. He should have had 2 touchdowns. One of them was to Drake London that got knocked away. Great defense by the New York defender on that play, and then he had a throw to Kyle Pitts in the red zone, and Pitts, ended up somehow fumbling it into New York Giants defenders' hands, and they end up with the interception. It's going down as an interception in the stat book, which I don't think it should, because that should be catch and a fumble by Kyle Pitts. I can't blame that one on Michael Penix. He threw a great ball, and Pitts just made a bonehead play. But things like that happen in the NFL. And something else I want to mention here, Michael Penix Jr. was pressured 14 times yesterday in the contest against New York. No sacks. There's one player I remember specifically, and they were mentioning on the broadcast, this guy is strong because he had a defender closing in on him about to sack him, and he spun out of it and was able to throw the ball away toward a defender, so he wouldn't get an intentional grounding call. But just the fact that he was able to kind of shrug a little bit out of that sack and have the strength to throw the football away, let the find another down so it wouldn't be a loss of yards on the, right there on the sack. It was great poise and just a savvy move, by him. And you don't see a lot of that stuff out of rookies, right? You don't see that it's those little plays, it's those things, that's the mental things, mental notes, the fundamentals. It's those decisions, that may not show up on the stat sheet, right? As far as it made it go down as incompletion, but he made the right play. He threw the ball away. He was able to get it out of his hands and avoid the sack, right? And that's what you want out of your starting quarterback, especially your young starting quarterback in this league, which again, is where the trajectory is headed now with these quarterbacks in the league. You got guys like Bo Nix, and you got guys like Jane Daniels, right? Caleb Williams, and Michael Penix Jr. is up there with them. As far as this guy is talented, man. People don't talk about him. He's a talented quarterback. The Falcons were surprised that he went where he went in the draft, but hey, they were happy because he came to them. And I just was, like I said, really impressed by his debut yesterday. And the last time the Falcons had a quarterback who was left-handed, it was quite the electric ride here, so to speak. So, I'm sure fans are happy to see that back in the A here in Atlanta. But overall, yeah, this kid's amazing. He can drive the ball down the field. He's strong, quick release. It's tough playing as a defender, when you're playing against a quarterback like that, because he's able to, especially being a left-handed quarterback, because obviously you don't see those very often in the NFL, really any level of football. But yeah, especially the younger levels like college, high school, you don't see many left-handers. You may see a few, like that dispersed throughout the country. But as far as in the NFL, you got Tua, you got Michael Penix. Maybe another one, I'm sure somewhere. So it's there's not many of them, so defenders are not used to that. That's not the majority of the time we're having to play against. So trying to get adapted to playing against a guy with a left hand, who throws left-handed, it's hard, but regardless of the fact, he essentially dotted up the Giants defense, and it was impressive. And like I said, I think the Falcons have a real gem right here in Michael Penix Jr. He is going to lead this team, to great success. I'm a firm believer in that. And, it's unfortunate that, the Kirk Cousins thing didn't work out, like he had hoped, so his fans had hoped, but, just opens a door for this guy to come in here. And he's also, man, this kid, he's humble too. He's got a good personality, man. Michael Penix, he's very poised, like I said, grounded, cool, and collected in the pocket, but just overall as a person, he gives me good vibes. He gives me like a guy who wants to go to work and play for his team and get the win. And that's the type of guys that you need on your football team in your locker rooms. So Falcons got themselves a good one in Michael Penix Jr. And I'm excited to see where it leads for them. It really am excited to see where it leads for them. Something else to note here: Kirk Cousins possibly to consider retiring at the end of the season for Atlanta. So, which I mean, if he does, he does. But I mean that I wouldn't. Oh, I wouldn't be surprised if he did. Because they benched him for Michael Penix, his rookie, and now it's like if you're a Kirk, I mean, especially after the league seeing what he's been doing the last couple of weeks when he was the starter, leading the NFL in turnovers, throwing interceptions every game, they're not going to want a guy like that on the roster. A lot of teams aren't, because a lot of teams, a good number of teams in the league are believe that they're championship contenders, that they believe that they're not bottom of the barrel teams just looking for stopgaps, right? There's not many of those. You have a few of them, but there's not many of those, right? And so bringing a guy like Kirk Cousins on the team, you're trying to go and check. You can't afford to be turning football over, and just being flat-footed in the pocket, and that's not the type of quarterback play you need if you're on a championship contending team. So I highly doubt he might get any traction in free agency, or if the Falcons plan to cut him, if I don't know how that's going to work, but I highly doubt he's going to be in Atlanta next year. So that's just something else to keep an eye on. But overall, I mean, defense played good. Like I said, defense was really a highlight. Caden Ellis, of course, doing what he usually does. Jesse Bates had a pick six. And Matthew Judon, of all people, had a pick six. So it was just overall good collective effort from the Falcons, and they'll play the Commanders on Sunday Night Football in Washington next Sunday, which will be a really good game. Commanders came back and beat the Eagles yesterday after, Jalen Hurts exited the game with a concussion. So wishing the best to him. Hope he gets better. But, man, it was like that was an exciting game. It's going to be a good one against Washington. So Lad's got to bring their A game. Michael Penix is going to bring his A game, but I know he's not afraid of the big moment. He's one of those guys. He feeds off the pressure. That's when he plays his best. So that's what I expect to see out of him Sunday night. And then the Carolina Panthers, that's the last game of the year for Atlanta. And then we'll see what happens as far as the postseason is concerned and see how things shape out. But right now, for the moment, things are looking good. They're looking okay for the Falcons. And I'm sure that they want it to stay that way. So, but that's pretty much going to wrap us up on the episode here today, guys. I just want to talk about Michael Penix Jr. and his performance, in Sunday's matchup against the Giants. And just knowing that Atlanta has their guy of the future finally. It seems like we have some consistent play at the quarterback position. For the foreseeable future. So that's a good thing. That's a good feeling to have if you're a fan. But yeah, you guys make sure you hit that subscribe button. Check us out here on YouTube and follow us on the socials on Instagram and TikTok and Twitter. And we will see you next time on Jay's Fifth Down.